Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daily Rollup. My name is Kagan Dunlap, and every week, Monday through Friday, we put together a compilation of a bunch of short stories, like short news stories, into one long video that we upload to YouTube Monday through Friday every evening. So that way we can provide you with kind of like a basic daily news update with 5 to 7 top stories around the globe. So if this is your first time coming here, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So as you're all probably aware at this point, there was an 8.8 magnitude earthquake off of Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, which triggered a tsunami, which struck the coastal town of Severokurilsk, along with lots of other island chains all throughout the entire Pacific. But I want to focus on Severokurilsk specifically. Now, the town belongs to approximately 2,000 residents, and they experienced waves exceeding 3 meters in height, meaning like 9.8 feet, with the largest reaching up to 5 meters or 16.4 feet. These waves caused like massive flooding, particularly in the port area, which got absolutely ravaged by flooding. But after the floodwaters receded in the afternoon, the assessments that were conducted revealed that there was limited structural collapse and structural damage, and that there were no reported fatalities. Now, this particular earthquake was like the 6th strongest earthquake recorded in history, and it was one of the strongest earthquakes that took place in the region since 1952. So this is wild. As all of you are probably already aware, there was an 8.8 magnitude earthquake that happened off of Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula yesterday, which marked one of the strongest quakes in the region since 1952. And when that happened, there was a team of surgeons in the process of operating on a patient at the Kamchatka Oncology Center, which is like the cancer clinic, right, in Petropolovsk, Kamchatsky, which demonstrated significant levels of composure by refusing to abandon their patient while they were in the process of conducting surgery. When they could have fled for their lives, they stayed there with their patient during their ongoing operation and just held on as the whole building was like shaking all over the place. CCTV camera footage captured the moment as violent tremors were shaking the building all over the place, and the doctors held on and they clutched their medical tools and stabilized the patient to keep them from like falling off the table, and they remained calm, cool, and collected. Once the tremors stopped, they resumed their procedure and continued with their operation, which, hey, I gotta hand it to them, man. That takes discipline to not flee for your life while there's an earthquake because you have a patient on the table that you're about to operate on or conducting an operation on already. So hat goes off to those guys, whoever they were. So after the 8.8 magnitude earthquake hit Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula yesterday, there's something strange that happened. Amid the tsunami alerts throughout the Pacific Ocean, there was at least 4 whales that were identified as sperm whales that washed ashore on the beach in Tateyama City in the Chiba Prefecture, Japan. There was footage from one of the local broadcasters out there, NHK, and social media that captured the unfortunate scene of the animals that got stranded. And unfortunately, due to the ongoing risk of tsunami at the time, local officials and locals couldn't do anything to like help the situation. Apparently, whales getting beached during earthquakes and tsunamis is not an uncommon thing because although the exact mechanisms are uncertain, folks have speculated that it causes disorientation from underwater noise and pressure waves. Since earthquakes generate low-frequency sounds and shock waves underwater, it can severely disrupt whales' echolocation and navigation systems. And the fact of the matter is that whales, especially deep-diving species like sperm whales, rely on sensitive hearing for orientation, hunting, and communication. So the seismic disturbances could have potentially caused hearing damage or panic, causing them to swim into shallow waters where they then become beached or stranded. Still very strange. All right, so some interesting developments coming out of Australia recently. Apparently, Australia has expanded legislation to ban children under the age of 16 from accessing certain social media platforms, now including YouTube in the restrictions. Now, apparently this decision reverses an earlier exemption for YouTube, which was initially considered an educational tool, but then they added it due to concerns over harmful content exposure. Apparently, the law that was passed in November of 2024 is aiming to protect young people from risks associated with algorithmic recommendations, persuasive design features like infinite scroll, and exposure to harmful materials such as sexist or misogynistic ideas, dangerous challenges, and content promoting unhealthy habits. Apparently, the ban is going to take effect on December 10th of 2025. The affected platforms, as far as which platforms are going to be banned for people under the age of 16 in Australia, applies to every major social media platform, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, X, and YouTube. And the only thing that's going to be exempt from it is going to be online gaming, messaging apps, health services, education platforms, and YouTube Kids, which doesn't allow uploads or comments. Parents and teachers will still be able to access YouTube videos to provide to children under supervision. Apparently, social media companies are being required to take reasonable steps in order to prevent users from under 16 from creating or holding accounts on the platforms in Australia. Non-compliance could result in fines that are up to a $49.5 million fine in Australia or $32.5 million in US dollars for the social media companies. Apparently, they have an e-safety commissioner over there to oversee the implementation of this thing. All right, so I'm sure that a lot of you out there are probably wondering, like, what was the impact on Hawaii? Because obviously everything got super hyped up. Well, apparently the waves arrived in Hawaii at around 8 p.m. local time on July 29th, which while it exacerbated flooding, it didn't destroy as much. It didn't cause as much damage as people thought. The overall impact was relatively minor, according to the local sources, with no reports of any significant damage, injuries, or fatalities. Apparently, upon arrival, the waves reached up to 5.7 feet in some places above normal sea level. In Kahului on Maui's north central shore. In Hilo on the Big Island, waves measured 4.9 feet. On Oahu's north shore, waves exceeded 3.3 feet. In Haleiwa, with some reports of up to 5 to 6 feet in some of the isolated areas. Initial waves were smaller, but built up, leading to flooding in some of the low-lying areas. But again, nothing massive and no fatalities. There was some minor flooding that occurred in some of the several coastal regions, including Hilo on the Big Island and Oahu's North Shore, with water spilling into parking lots like at Haleiwa Boat Harbor, reaching ankle deep levels, which is like, okay, it's not really that bad. Scattered debris and stuff like that. But again, like the overall description of like what the damage assessment was, minimal with no large damage reported across the island. So that's good. We were very concerned because I would rather people over prepare and get to a safe location and nothing happen than nobody leave and then have like tens of thousands of deaths, because that's not what you don't want that. So it looks like for the most part, everything was relatively not that bad, but you know, at the end of the day, no injuries, no deaths or missing persons were reported in connections with the tsunamis. Thank God. And I'm glad that everybody's safe and accounted for. So that's it. So after the massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake that hit the Kamchatka Peninsula happened yesterday, the Kliuvskaya Sopka volcano, which is the tallest active volcano in Eurasia, started erupting. Now, it seems that the earthquake triggered the volcanic activity, including lava flows, explosions, and ash emissions that were visible at night. And there's been videos circulating around the internet showing people that stuff. The volcano is situated about 30 kilometers from the village of Kliuchi, which is home to around 4,500 people. And it's been showing signs of increased activity in the recent days, such as crater glow and ash plumes. But the quake definitely accelerated the eruption. So if it wasn't going to erupt before, when that magnitude 8.8 earthquake happened, it shook everything loose in there. Now, current reports have been indicating that ongoing monitoring by Russian authorities is continuing to happen, including the Kamchatka branch of the Geophysical Service of the Russian Academy of Sciences and the Kamchatkan Volcanic Eruption Response Team, also known as KVERT. Evacuations have been initiated in some areas, and tsunami alerts were also issued across parts of the Pacific, including Hawaii, Japan, and other locations, due to the combined seismic and volcanic threats. There's been images circulating around the internet showing a prominent plume of dark smoke rising from the summit with an orange-red glow at the crater against a clear sky. Now, there hasn't been any major damage reported from the volcano just yet, beyond local ash fall and things like that, but there's definitely serious potential potential for travel disruptions in the area, especially if it continues to escalate. Okay, guys, so what I'm about to tell you is unprecedented, and I have never seen anything like this before. Apparently on July 29th of 2025, there were representatives up in New York from the Arab League, the European Union, and several other nations that issued a joint declaration at a United Nations conference in New York. Now, here's the important part. This document was titled the New York Declaration on the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine. And it explicitly, in the document, condemns Hamas's October 7th of 2023 attack on Israel for the first time by the entire Arab League, describing it as a, quote, massacre that killed approximately 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and resulted in the abduction of about 250 hostages and around 50 still believed to be held captive, either dead or alive. Now think about this. The entire Arab League, that means 22 different nations, including Algeria, Bahrain, Comoros, Djibouti, Iraq, Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, the UAE, and Yemen. All of those people signed this declaration. Now, in addition to condemning the October 7th attack from Hamas, the declaration also urged Hamas to disarm and end its control over Gaza, as well as release all remaining hostages and hand over governance and weapons to the Palestinian Authority with international support to facilitate the transition. Like I said, this is a once in a 50-year thing. This right here, what's happening, is probably a once in 100 years type scenario, seeing something like this. If the Arab League is on board and they are publicly condemning Hamas and saying they need to drop down their arms and give over weapons and governance to the Palestinian Authority, that sends a message, a very clear message. Now, the conference was co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia and was originally planned for June, but it was postponed and scaled down to a ministerial level. The 7-page declaration outlines a phased plan to revive the two-state solution, calling for an end to the war in Gaza and the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state based on pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Deployment of temporary international stabilization mission under UN auspices to protect civilians, monitor a ceasefire, and oversee the administrative handover to the Palestinian Authority. International pledges for Gaza's reconstruction, including an upcoming conference in Cairo, and recognition of the state of Palestine by more nations, with France announcing it would do so at the UN General Assembly on September 21st, 2025. Now, the French foreign minister hailed this declaration almost the same way that I said. He said, quote, historic and unprecedented. I also said unprecedented because this is an unprecedented situation. Like, if you don't understand like how massive that is, that the Arab League is wanting this, they've had enough. They're done. They're like, we're not playing these dumb games anymore. Now, obviously, the reactions are going to be a little mixed because the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissed the declaration, reiterating opposition to a two-state solution due to security concerns. However, if the Arab League gets involved and they ensure that it is secure and they cut their ties with Iran's government and they kick out all of these extremists that are in there and the terrorists, they may be able to find a way. So I will be very interested to see how this whole thing plays out because, like I said, this is a big deal. All right, so that's it for the daily roll-up for today on July 30th of 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let us know what you thought about this video in the comments below. If there are things that you think we've done well, let us know what those are. If you think there's things we can improve upon, please let us know what those are. And even just leave a comment in general. It helps support the channel, helps enable me to continue to do these videos because I like delivering information in a easily digestible format like this. So please let us know what you thought about the video in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.